Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now I know it's been a little bit since I've been on here, but I wanted to skip the 1 month and the 2 month and skip right up to 3 months with the Nintendo Switch 2 to do this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Well, we're finally here. 3 months with the Nintendo Switch 2. Honestly, for me, it still feels like yesterday when this console released, with Mario Kart and the overall kind of mood with it. But man, has it been kind of fun. And it's pretty okay, if I'm being honest. Don't get me wrong, I love this thing. It's so powerful, I like being able to play Cyberpunk wherever, but it doesn't have any games, at least for Nintendo Switch 2, or it didn't have any games for the first 2 months, which is a little not great, especially for a console's release. Now, while waiting for another game, a major release, even though a month in between 2 major releases is not that great, especially on a new console, because you want all the content you can get, not to mention some of the games being older, updated releases, which makes it feel a lot less of a Nintendo Switch 2 and a Nintendo Switch 1.5. But I still don't like how they had waited all that time to release more games, like Donkey Kong. I feel like that should have been another release title, but no, they waited an additional month on top of that, which is a little odd in my opinion, but hey, what are you gonna do? And I also don't like how they didn't release the wheelchair basketball game, which I still haven't purchased and I don't plan on to, but I don't get why they didn't have that be a launch release as well, and instead wanted to make Welcome Tour a launch release. I get why it was, but a paid launch release makes no sense to me. So let's talk my experience with the console. Honestly, I think it's been pretty good. I've taken it mostly everywhere with me. I got the D-brand case for it, and I also got the screen protector because I was worried about my screen scratching over a period of time, but honestly, even without it, I didn't fear that it would scratch, even in the dock. I think Nintendo has learned from their lessons in the past, and even before putting it on, I checked the screen, and I think I waited like 2 months, and I had no scratches or anything along those lines. Now, not to say that the screen can't be scratched, because I don't think anyone's putting it in their pocket, but if you're going to try to, don't put it in there with your keys, because that's the main thing that'll scratch you, because it's a plastic screen or a plastic film on top of a glass screen, which I think is a little odd, but I get why they did it to reduce the shattering. Now, what have I done with this console? I've played it a lot. I've played it places and other things. I took it on a plane, I took it on a cruise, I took it on a vacation. I plan to take it on another vacation, which will be a video, and I think it worked out pretty well. I was entertained the whole time I had it. The only time I could say I was a little bored was when I was playing Cyberpunk, but that's because that's a game I've sunk hundreds of hours into, and resyncing all of those hours into another game that doesn't have all the save data as my old save on my PS5 was a little off. But I mean, other than that, it worked out pretty well. Cyberpunk, again, is so cool to just play on the go, and even though it doesn't look as good as, well, PS5, it's still amazing that it's being able to be played anywhere, especially not with the remote play like a lot of other games had done in the past. It's crazy that only like a year or two ago, when they released Resident Evil 2 remastered and 3 remastered and 8 all on the same console of the Nintendo Switch 1, and they had to be cloud games, is kind of weird, but now they can do it as a full release, which I hope they do, because then it gives people to say, oh, it used to not be able to handle that, now it can handle it, which I think is something they need to do, especially when they are going to release Elden Ring at some point, and I think it'll be something pretty interesting for everyone to talk about. Now let's talk about games. They have been okay. Of course, you have your Nintendo releases, which are good and okay, like the basketball wheelchair game and the Welcome Tour, which was not the best out of anything, but just talking about some of the games that have released currently as I'm talking. Today is September 5th, and a new game, a new horror game, Chronos, just released today, and yesterday, Silksong released. And it feels like it's a large just amount of games being released right now, especially with the market that we have. It's so great to see that now you can play these games anywhere you want to. A major release such as Chronos, I don't want to say it's a major release, but it's releasing on Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo Switch 2. And Nintendo Switch 2, I don't want to say looks as good, but it looks close to what these consoles are able to do. And I think that's so cool. I just love this console so much, but it also does have its drawbacks. So, one of the major drawbacks, the ergonomics. So bad. They kept the initial design of the Switch 1 for the Joy-Cons, and I get it because it makes it a lot easier to flip on the side and use as a additional controller when you're playing on multiplayer, but I honestly haven't done that in a while. I even got the racing wheels, and those are pretty good, but they're not the best. But the Joy-Cons are just, without the dbrand case, they're very flat. Like, this is where the Joy-Con ends. So with the dbrand case, which this video is not sponsored by, I just like the product, it makes a lot more ergonomic, and a lot more, as I saw someone said, a Steam Deck. And from the brief little glimpse of a Steam Deck I saw, it's a little bit like a Steam Deck. I don't think it's still that ergonomic. I used to have a Satisfy grip for the Nintendo Switch OLED, which won't fit on this because this is a lot larger, but I liked how it had a little bit of a bump out to the side, so that way the thumb placement is a little bit better on the right joystick. I recently got Hotline Miami on the Nintendo Switch 2, and playing that, I prefer to play it on the docks mode, or at least with the Pro Controller, because their sticks are a lot larger and they're a lot more comfortable to use, especially the camera stick, because that's how you control the game a lot of the time, is with the camera stick. And trying to use the small Nintendo Switch camera stick can be a little bit of a lesser experience. I kind of wish they took the sticks from the Pro Controller and put them on the Nintendo Switch 2 and just made the controllers a lot larger in general. But I mean, I get why they didn't do that, because they want to keep the original form factor or whatever, but I think that's kind of an undersell on their part, and having to buy additional accessories to make it more comfortable is a little bit on the ridiculous side of things. And I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to games, the game key cards. Any game that I see has a game key card. I've bought multiple Nintendo Switch 2 games digitally because I don't want a Nintendo Switch game key card in my collection of physical games. It doesn't feel good to own those. So I've just not bought any physical versions of digital game key cards. And I think it's ridiculous that Nintendo has forced them to either use one large key card or one large cartridge that even Nintendo doesn't use the fullness of. I think they should bring it back to what the original Nintendo Switch did with its smaller versions or its larger versions for different versions of games, especially ones that need a lot more space. One game that I did want to buy physically, but I just never got around to it because I had just bought it the day that I got my Switch to see how it would run, is Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 is on a physical game card, but that's a larger game. That's like 50 gigabytes. So they use almost all of the space that they have on that game key card. But stuff like whatever 3DS released, re-release game, I'll show it up on the screen, being forced to use a game key card is a little ridiculous. And Silksong at the same time. Hollow Knight Silksong has got to be one of the largest releases ever for a game. Crashing Steam, crashing PlayStation servers, Xbox servers, even Switch servers, which isn't a large thing. They used to get crashed all the time, but they still crashing all of those servers. And if you wanted to buy it physically, you're pretty much SOL, if I'm being honest. Because if you wanted to buy it physically for the Switch, you most likely would have to use a game key card because the game itself is $20, but the cartridges are so much more expensive because they actually have the content on them, and they're forced to be like 64 gigabytes, and they don't even use all of that for this game, which I think is a little ridiculous on Nintendo's part, but hey, I mean, they're a company that's going to decide it. I think they might get rid of it and go back to how it originally was and try to sweep all the game key cards crap under the rug, which makes the most sense, but I don't hate the idea of a game key card. And let me tell you why. Like, it's like saying, okay, I have a whole room to put stuff in, but I'm only going to put stuff in it that is small enough to fit on it. Then what's the point of using the room? You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous, because it's forcing people to pretty much use either the full cartridge for a larger game, or use the catch-all. What are you gonna... Why? It makes no sense. I hope they change it, because I want to collect more physical games. I like being able to switch out the cartridges, but I mean, if you don't allow people to have cartridges, I don't know what to say. It's a little ridiculous that they are using game key cards even still, 3 months later. But enough with that. I want to talk about something a little bit happier with the Switch 2. Unfortunately, another thing that I don't like about the Switch 2 is its HUD. I don't like how the HUD is the same as it was on the Switch 1, because that means it doesn't really feel any more special than a Nintendo Switch 1, which is a little underwhelming, but I mean, what are you gonna do? It just didn't feel like quite the upgrade. Once I first had it, and I had that honeymoon phase where I was very happy with it, I loved the console, I now find it a little odd that it doesn't have a new HUD or anything new to make it feel like a Nintendo Switch 2, and again, more like a Nintendo Switch 1.5. But I mean, I don't know what to say to that. It's just, they need to improve it just a little bit. Let's talk about the chat system. Yes, it is a negative that we still have the friend codes and all of that awfulness, and it's sad that we still can't have multiple parties or invite people to parties, but you have to create separate chats or whatever. I don't like that, but I'm glad that it's on the console now, because then you don't have to use the Nintendo Switch Online app, which I never liked using it. I'd always just call my friends either on my phone, or I'd talk to them through a Discord party or whatever, and I probably still will keep doing that, but I mean, I'm glad that it's there. I haven't used it because none of my other friends have a Switch 2 yet. I'm the only one with a Switch 2, so I'm kind of left on the fence there. But, I mean, it's there. I like it. Not as much as any other console, but I like it. So, I guess that's one positive. Also, I guess, a negative as well. Unfortunately, another thing that I don't like about the Switch 2 is its HUD. I don't like how the HUD is the same as it was on the Switch 1, because that means it doesn't really feel any more special than a Nintendo Switch 1, which is a little underwhelming, but I mean, what are you gonna do? It just didn't feel like quite the upgrade. Once I first had it, and I had that honeymoon phase where I was very happy with it, I loved the console, I now find it a little odd that it doesn't have a new HUD or anything new to make it feel like a Nintendo Switch 2, and again, more like a Nintendo Switch 1.5. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the eShop to look at the games that are coming soon or recently released, and I have to scroll past all of this shovelware AI content. This PlayStation Store has that problem. The Xbox Store, I don't know if that has that problem. I'll have to check it on its own video. But I might even make a video just solely on this, on the amount of shovelware that is on this console. It is so bad. There's a beat 'em ups video that makes this that announces this huge problem, and it was a problem on the Switch 1. There was so much stuff posted in one day that it makes it so bad. Like, I see actual Android and iOS games on the console. Why? I shouldn't be seeing iOS games on a video game console. Something that can run Cyberpunk 2077 should not have Wiener Run on there. Why? It makes no sense to me. They need a better moderation system. They need a better system in general. They just need it to be better than what it already is. I don't know if that's adding bots to detect AI generated content or people going through the eShop and just delete and just getting rid of games or striking people or deactivating the title. Whatever it is, they need to get this, it's AI content pasted onto a video game console, which makes no sense. No console should have that. I should not be looking for games to play, and right under Luigi's Mansion, I have Doodle Bob Run 85. It makes no sense. I hate it. Everybody seems to hate it. And there's also a problem with, how do I want to word this? 18 and up games on the console? That's just weird in its own right. Another beat 'em ups video is on that. It's odd to have 18 and up content. I don't mean 17 and up like Cyberpunk. I mean like it's bad. It's bad. It's just not good. That's another thing I would change about the console, in my opinion. It's just how the eShop works and how AI generated content is on there. Now, I have talked about what I would change, what I would change mainly, but what I would keep, pretty much almost everything I didn't talk about the console. I would keep the screen. I think that's good. I would keep the Joy-Cons. I just improve them a little bit. I'd keep game key cards. I would keep, but not make them mandatory. By mandatory, I mean not having one cartridge to catch everything and then another cartridge to catch the rest. It's like one size fits all. It doesn't fit everybody. It just, I don't like that. Prices, I would change some prices around. It's ridiculous how expensive this console is. A lot of people have compared it to nickeling and diming, and I get that. That is an awful idea. To nickel and dime a console that's already $500 or $450. It makes no sense to me to go, whoa, you want to buy a Nintendo Switch camera? You want to buy some Joy-Cons? That's gonna be $95? No. It makes no sense. They should be cheaper. They should have Hall effect joysticks, although the Switch 2 can't do that because it has magnets in it. But, I mean, find a better way. Find a better joystick is what I'm saying. Find a better stick for the console that isn't magnetic. That's how I would improve it. Other than that, that's all I would keep. So, I was going to do prediction time, but everything I predicted Nintendo already got done. So, yeah, there's no reason for you guys to watch that because it's just a bunch of information that was already proven correct. So, what are you going to do? I'll let you get back to the video. I personally love this console. I think it's very good. I do think there are some things that could definitely improve. So there are some games that I think do need an update, like they had shown on their Nintendo Switch Direct. Super Mario Wonder is one of them. I don't think that has an update yet. And I think that's gonna wrap up my video for today. Again, let me know what you think about the Switch 2, how you think the life cycle will go, what you like about the console right now, and what you think they could improve. I guess I'll see you later when 6 months hits. So, to everyone with a Switch 2 or without, this is Terrence Clown, signing off.